welcome back to a new devotion, Turning Points with God by David Jeremiah. Today's devotion's title is Still Small Voice. It's found on page 63. Our scripture text comes from the book of John, chapter 10 and verse 4. I will be reading that from my King James Bible. And it says, and this is in red, so this is Jesus speaking to us. And it says, "And when he putteth forth his own sheep, he goeth before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice." In the classic film Field of Dreams, the main character, Ray Kinsella, hears a small voice say, "If you build it, he will come." He interprets this to mean he needs to build a baseball diamond in the middle of a cornfield. He could ignore the voice and go on with his less than fulfilling life. Instead, he chooses to listen and follow each prompting to see where it leads. For a while, it seems he will never find the meaning of the repetitious phrase. But at the end of the movie, the reason for the baseball field is revealed to restore Ray's broken relationship with his deceased father. Because he listened to the quiet voice that only he could hear, he found peace and fulfillment for his life. This may sound like a familiar plot. Noah heard the same kind of voice when he was instructed to build the ark, and each step of the way he trusted that God had a purpose for it. When God speaks to you in a still, small voice, listen carefully. He is unfolding a plan for your life. If you trust him each step of the way, you will ultimately find peace and fulfillment as you follow him. Keep the posture of an upright man, cheerfully and patiently awaiting the directing voice, and it will not be long ere God shall say to you, "Go forward." That is a quote by Charles Haddon Spurgeon. Well, we talked about the still small voice of God. He does not come in a loud thundering boom. That's why a lot of times I feel like we have to get into a quiet place so we can hear that still small voice. And just like with Noah and the plot of this movie, I mean, you're going to have people think you're crazy. You're going to have people look at you and like, what? No, you've lost your mind. And honestly, sometimes the things that God has us do does not look normal to the average person. But God is not the average person. And his ways are so different than anything that we would do, you know. He's just mysterious in a lot of ways and why he wants things done a certain way. But, you know, he's God, and who are we to argue with that? And that's when you just have to just stand and know you know what you know. And people may not understand it, but if you will keep on doing what he has you to do, listening to that voice, following his directions, then you don't know how many lives you're going to touch along the way, because they're going to see you standing fast, you know, standing on faith. You know what you know. It may not make sense to other people, but you know what you know, and they're going to be watching the process. You might not even know who's watching. You might not even know that the ones you live with are paying attention. But then when it all comes to fruition, and when the movie ends, so when the plot is all pulled together, they're going to see, and they're going to learn so much from you obeying. You're going to learn so much from obeying, because as we go through things, we learn so much. Just like I spoke about in the last devotional about handling the trial so differently that we were in. I learned so much in that, y'all. So much that I'm still using today as things crop up, as things kind of show up and we don't understand some things. I'm bringing that to remembrance. Remember how you reacted when you got the news. Remember how you handled it. Remember how you got through this trial. And it was faster because God was able to just move like he wanted to without me getting in the way. And that's the deal with me a lot of times, is I will get in the way and delay and prolong things that God really wanted to do swiftly. But because I get in the way and try to second guess myself, oh, was that God? No, that wasn't God. That was probably just me thinking, no, Surely not. That doesn't make sense. Well, honey, nothing with God makes sense, okay? When you are in this thing with God, you're going to learn that his ways and his thoughts, like the word tells us, are not like ours. And he is never going to make sense to us, because we are never going to be able to be on the level that he's on, to understand his thought process, to understand what he's doing, because we're right here and we can only see so far in each direction. But he's in our yesterdays and he's already in our tomorrows. And so he sees everything. He's like bird's eye view. He knows what's coming. Just like I told y'all when James went into work, we were caught off guard, but God was not. Same thing in life. So if you're waiting for things to make sense, you're going to have a long wait, because when you're in this thing with God, it is never, ever going to make sense. If you're waiting for you to be able to explain to others why you're doing things a certain way because you're doing it the way God tells you to do and hoping they understand, unless they have that relationship with God and have been through some same things, they're going to look at you like you got 3 eyes. They're going to look at you like you got 2 heads. They're going to look at you like, what are you talking about? You are crazy. And thankfully, I am in a family that we understand. And that's why we do some of the things we do, because we know it don't make sense to others, but we know what God has us to do. And the Lord will have me do things that thankfully, James just accepts and understands, because I'll tell him, I know it don't make sense. I don't understand it, but this is what I got to do. And he's just like, okay, do what you got to do. And that's why it's important to have someone in your life when you're in a relationship with them, that they get you, that they understand. And I thank God for that, because that lets me know that God is not just working on me, but he's working on him too, because if he wasn't, he wouldn't be so accommodating, you know? But yeah, I a lot of times have to get away, because there can just be sometimes just too much noise and we miss that voice. But that's why I will get into my closet, get into a quiet room, turn off the TV, turn off the phone, turn off everything, and just listen. Just listen for that voice and to listen for that direction. And I have come to learn the way God talks to me. I've learned his voice. It took me a long time to get there, and I missed it a lot of times because I didn't know it. But now I know my shepherd's voice, and I will follow his command. I will come to him. It's just like, you know, if you just like you have a pet, they know you. They know when you're serious. They know when you're playful. They know when you're being firm. They know when you're a little more relaxed. They know all of that. Same thing with us and God. The more we're in this relationship with God, the more we're going to understand him and his ways, how he handles us. We may not always understand his reasoning, but we're going to understand this is God. This is God. This is my shepherd. I'm going to follow his command. I'm going to follow his direction, because I know he's taking care of me. And there is no safer place than to be in the care of the great shepherd. He's an amazing God. He's taken care of me in times that the enemy really wanted to destroy me, and at times wanted to kill me. But he left that 99 for me, and he came and protected me and picked me up and took care of me. He's an awesome God, and I love him. I pray this has blessed you and encouraged you. Maybe find a little quiet corner today and talk to him and listen to see what he has to say to you. I love you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.